are being recorded. Well, welcome to our second edition of Saturday Love Stories. Last week we had Danny and Connie Kester. This week we're having Charles and Kelsey Carter, and they've agreed to subject themselves to the questioning of David and Rachel. And so we've given them a little heads up on a couple of the questions that we're gonna ask them, but there are a couple questions at the end that are going to be surprises for them. But they're not too bad. So don't be too nervous. Just a little nervous. Okay, just an appropriate amount of nervous. Okay. So Rachel's going to start with their first question.
How did you guys meet?
Kelsey had a very fond attraction to the manager. This is what happened.
He was my boss.
He was your supervisor?
He was my boss.
Oh.
When I was 19, I accidentally, it's actually a funny story. I was referred to get a job at the it was supposed to be the Subway and Subway and Taco Bell on 41. And somebody I went to school with was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a shift lead there. I'll get you a job." And I said, "Great, I'll go on and apply." Well, there's like two pilots, or there used to be, not anymore, but there's two pilots right across the street from each other. And I applied to the wrong one. I saw 64 and 41, and I was like, "Oh, that's it." Well, the one that he was referring to actually has a Warrenton address. The one I applied to was the Wendy's across the street. So actually, he was the one that called me too for the interview. He called and was like, "Hey, this is Charles Carter at Wendy's. We want to bring you in for an interview." And I was like, whoops, because it was not the right one. But I went to the interview, and he's actually the one that did the interview as well. And
I still remember what she was wearing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that his general manager was teasing him after our interview, saying, "Ooh, like
She was.
you should follow up with that one." And
But she was out of my league. There was no shot. I knew that. There was no shot. So.
But yeah, he gave me an offer later that day. He called me and was
For the job.
For the job, yes, not.
So you want to get married? Is it?
But he was actually mean to me for like the first 6 months.
That wasn't mean.
He wasn't mean, but he just like pretended I didn't exist. Like
mean to me for the first 6 months too.
I mean, you know what? He never claims to be nice ever.
I've never claimed to be nice.
But yeah, we actually worked together for almost a year. It was October 30th was when I started at Wendy's, and we started dating the following September 1st.
September.
So.
And, I left home early, so it wasn't an option for me to lose my job. And fraternization policy meant that nobody could know that I was dating an employee. So
True. We dated in secret
so
for
nervous.
the first 4
so
months.
Nervous.
It was like January, I think. We started dating September 1st, and it was like January before we even told anybody.
Yeah.
A couple people had figured it out, but
yeah. All right, well, that's a good story. All right, so obviously you're married now, so the relationship progressed. How did the proposal take place? How'd that go down?
That's a funny story also.
So I knew very early on that I wanted to marry her, and on our 1-year dating anniversary, I took her out to Madeline's in Evansville. I had a friend who was one of our groomsmen, actually, but he graduated culinary school and was helping out there. And so we were the only ones in the restaurant, and I was a nervous wreck. And just about the time that I would get up the courage to drop to a knee, the waiter would come back. And he's like, "Hey, can I get you anything?" I'm like, no, we're fine. We're fine.
He was like
Just
rude
go.
too. Like I could tell. I was like, "What is wrong with you? Like you're not." I don't know. He's basically like, "Get away from us."
So the poor guy didn't have anything else to do. We were the only ones in the place. But I joke that I think the only reason that she said yes was because there were 2 steak knives on the table, and she was a little fearful. But no, I finally did work up the courage and asked her there in the restaurant.
And then she said yes.
She didn't want to, but she did.
That's good. All right.
What's your favorite activity to do as a couple?
We're busy. We're very busy people. And so I would say our favorite thing is to finally have the peace about this time at night after the days have settled and the girls are in their beds. And we usually end up watching an episode of Andy Griffith. But just being with one another after a hectic day and just using that time with one another to just settle the day is probably our favorite activity. We don't get to do too much outside of the home at this point with as young as our kids are, but
when we do, we like to take day trips though, or like weekend trips. We've always rather than doing gifts on our anniversary, we've always taken a trip, and that's always been something that I look forward to. We try and go somewhere different. Nashville, we went to Chattanooga one time.
Was fun.
St. Louis, Louisville. When my mom used to live south, we used to like take a day trip up to Charleston. That was fun. But we always try and, rather than like material things, go on trips, and that's always fun. And we love to do day trips with the girls. We're constantly, anytime, especially in the summer. Chuck's always like, "Where are we going this weekend?" I was like, "I don't want to go anywhere," but usually we go somewhere. He's fun to the zoos and all of that, but we just like making memories. I grew up traveling all over the place with softball, and that's some of my favorite memories is being with my sisters and my mom, and that was always something I hold on to more than gifts or anything like that, making memories like that. So that's what I enjoy.
It's a better answer than I gave.
Andy Griffith. That's all right. Well, that sort of answered my second question. So my second question was, how do you nurture your marriage while also raising kids? And then you can add to that if you'd like to, but I have a backup question if you'd rather have the backup question.
I mean, yeah, that gives kind of answer. We do try and make a point. Sometimes it gets to the point where we're like, golly, it's been like 4 or 5 months since we've been out. But we do try and make a point of, we have lots of family around, so that's helpful that we'll keep the girls, the Lathams will keep the girls. My mom will keep the girls. My sister's in Evansville too. So we try and get out when we can.
All right, well, I'm going to ask my backup question, which is, when you fight, how do you make up?
I chase him around until he sits still long enough.
We are polar opposites when it comes to a disagreement, and I think that falls in line with the sexes. She's got to talk about it and handle every single detail right then and there, where I am very foolish with my words when things are hot, and so I know that I need to step away and cool off. But I think that turns into another argument of whatever argument we were in. That no, we need to settle this now, and I just need a minute. Let me have a minute.
See, the more the minutes go on, the more I stew. So it's not good either. But in the end, we do talk about it, and we will. Yeah. I mean, I am very forward with how he's made me feel, and I will never. I said from the very beginning that he will never wonder how I feel about whatever situation, whether I'm happy or sad or upset or mad or furious or whatever. I won't leave him second, or I won't ever let something build up long enough to where I just boil over and bring up every little thing in the past. He's gonna know right then and there how I feel about it. So I mean, honestly, as much as it is kind of hard in the moment, I think in the long run,
I think the biggest thing is to talk it out. We talk it out. We both admit the fault in it and make sure that we're looking at the other person's point of view. That's something that has grown in our years of marriage, is that maturity of understanding that you need to take that second to go into their perspective from what caused the disagreement, whatever it may be, and then discuss it from almost their angle. Probably gives us the best results.
That was a good answer from both of you. Excellent. And Rachel has the final question of the night.
What's your number one piece of advice for other married couples?
Well, you have one from each of us?
Sure.
Okay.
The more the merrier.
No.
No
I'll
pressure.
say I lifted it up in worship before, we had to separate, but young marriages especially.
You're
what I
referring
am
to
seeing,
separating for worship, right? Not separating from your wife.
Quarantine.
right,
Okay.
right, yes.
Just clarify. Okay.
Yes. I think the biggest thing that I'm seeing, especially with young married couples, is that the kids come first. And that is so dangerous. The kids will leave. And if the kids are your life, then you're doing your marriage wrong. So taking that time, like we said earlier, at the end of an evening, making sure that, we're not on our phones, we're not in different rooms, handling work or whatever, that we're actually talking about the day. We as human beings are very social creatures, and we're going to talk to somebody about our day. And if we're not talking to our spouse about our day-to-day activities, then we're talking to somebody else, and that somebody else, whether it be of an opposite sex or not, is going to become more and more forefront, where that needs to be your spouse.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of piggyback off of that, I think that we always said, it's probably an unpopular opinion, but that our marriage is going to come first. And, our girls know that we love them. They know that they are our world, and that for the most part, it does kind of revolve around them right now. But we have always made it a point to, make time for ourselves. And even if it is few and far between, make sure that he stays my best friend, because that's why we got married in the first place. And he's going to be there when they leave. I hope they don't go far, but he's ultimately going to be the one that I'm going to be living with and spending the rest of my life with. And I think that it's important that I like that and that I look forward to that. And I think that's what's kind of helped, with our growth together, and that we constantly, put each other first, and that we're constantly growing our relationship, and that our friendship is growing, and that we know each other inside and out. And I think that's what, stabilizes us and keeps things interesting and exciting.
Very good. Very good. This was a great conversation. I told you it wasn't going to be long, so you can get back to relaxing and watching Andy Griffith or whatever it is.
Got to log some training hours.
Oh my gosh. So he says this is a showpiece.
But thank you for taking the time to answer these questions. And
I like it.
Thank you for doing this.
And being so transparent too, because I know it's risky when you ask personal love questions of people.
A little nerve-wracking.
Especially when you don't know what a couple of them are going to be. Yeah. All right. So God bless you. Thank you, and good night.
Thank you. Have a
Good night.
Bye.